It had been 2 years since my divorce from David, 2 years since his mother. Margaret had made my life a living hell with her constant criticism, her endless insults, and her smug satisfaction. When her perfect son finally left me for someone she deemed more worthy, I had spent 5 years of marriage trying to earn Margaret's approval, cooking her favorite meals, cleaning her house, attending every family gathering, with a smile on my face, even when she whispered cruel things about my weight, my career, my inability to give her a grandchild. But nothing was ever good enough for Margaret because, in her eyes, I was always going to be the woman who stole her son away from her, the woman who wasn't from a wealthy family, the woman who didn't have the right last name or the right connections, or the right pedigree. When David left me, Margaret celebrated like she had won the lottery. She threw a party, invited all her friends, and made sure to tell anyone who would listen that her son had finally come to his senses and found a real woman who could actually give him a family. 2 years later, I ran into Margaret at a small cafe in the city, and she marched up to my table with the same smug expression she had worn the day. David left me, her voice loud enough for everyone in the cafe to hear, and she said, well, look who's still single and miserable. I knew you were useless. My son made the right choice leaving you. Now he has a beautiful wife and a baby boy, a real family. You couldn't give him anything, could you? No children, no money, no future. She laughed, a cold, sharp laugh that echoed through the cafe, and people started turning their heads to see what was happening, to see this poor woman being humiliated by her ex-mother-in-law in broad daylight. I didn't get angry. I didn't cry. I didn't defend myself or argue or try to explain anything. I just took a slow sip of my coffee, looked at Margaret with the calmest expression I could manage, and said, "Is that what you really believe, Margaret? Wait 5 minutes. I want you to meet someone." Her face flickered with confusion for just a second, but then she crossed her arms and smirked because she was confident, absolutely certain, that I had nothing to show her. No secret, no surprise, nothing that could possibly change the narrative she had built in her head for the past 2 years. Mon walks in. Exactly 5 minutes later, the cafe door swung open and a tall, handsome man in an expensive black suit walked in, his polished shoes clicking against the tile floor as he made his way toward my table with a warm smile on his face. He leaned down, kissed my cheek gently, and sat beside me, his hand resting on mine like we were old friends. Like we had done this 1,000 times before. Margaret's face went completely pale, her mouth dropped open, and she looked like she had just seen a ghost, because the man sitting beside me was none other than David, her son. My ex-husband, the man she thought had left me for someone else, the man she had been bragging about for the past 2 years. She dropped her coffee cup, and it shattered on the floor, but she didn't even notice because she couldn't take her eyes off the two of us, sitting there together like nothing had ever happened between us. "David," she whispered, her voice trembling, her hands shaking. "What? What are you doing here? Why are you with her? Where's Angela? Where's your wife? Where's your son?" David looked at his mother with cold, hard eyes and said, "Mother, I've been trying to tell you the truth for 2 years, but you never listened to me. You just believe whatever you want to believe." Margaret was shaking now, tears forming in her eyes, and she stammered, but you left her for Angela. You married Angela. She gave you a son. I saw the baby. I held him in my arms." The entire cafe was watching now. The barista stopped making coffee. The other customers had stopped eating. Everyone was staring at this dramatic scene unfolding in the middle of the afternoon. And I just sat there calmly, because I knew exactly what was about to happen, and I had been waiting for this moment for 2 long years. David took a deep breath and said, "Mother, I never left Sarah for Angela. Angela is my sister, your daughter. I never told you because I didn't think it mattered. But Angela is not my wife. She's my blood, and you've been making up a fantasy in your head for 2 years without ever asking me a single question." Margaret stumbled backward, grabbing onto a chair to steady herself, and she screamed, "No! That's impossible! Angela isn't your sister. She's your wife. I went to your wedding. I saw you walk down the aisle with her." David shook his head slowly and said, "That wasn't a wedding, Mother. That was a party, a celebration. I never married Angela. She got pregnant by a man who left her, and I helped her because she's my sister. I never told you the truth because I was ashamed of how you treated Sarah, and I was afraid of what you would do if you found out Angela was actually your daughter. I finally spoke, my voice calm and steady, and I said, "Margaret, you've been spreading lies about me for 2 years. You told everyone I was barren, that I was useless, that I couldn't give David a family. But the truth is, I chose to leave David because I couldn't stand you anymore. And that baby boy you keep bragging about? Angela gave birth to him, and she named him after me because I was the one who helped her raise him when she had nowhere else to go." Margaret collapsed into a chair, her face a mixture of confusion and horror, and she started crying, shaking, muttering under her breath like she was trying to process a reality that was completely different from everything she had believed for 2 years. The waitress brought me a fresh cup of coffee, and I took a slow, deliberate sip while Margaret sat there in complete and utter defeat. Her entire world shattered, her delusions destroyed, and the truth finally laid bare for everyone to see. I stood up from my chair, smoothed my dress, and looked down at Margaret, with a calm smile that I had been practicing in the mirror for 2 years. And I said, "You spent 5 years telling me I wasn't good enough for your family. You called me useless, worthless, a failure. You celebrated when David left me, and you spread lies about me to anyone who would listen. But here's what you never knew. I have a successful career. I have a beautiful home, and I have a godson who loves me more than anyone in your entire family ever did. I don't need your approval, Margaret. I never did. And the saddest part is that you spent so much time hating me that you never even stopped to realize Angela was your daughter, that you had a real family all along, and that your hatred was completely pointless." I picked up my purse and started walking toward the door, but I stopped and turned around one last time and I said, "Enjoy your delusions, Margaret. But remember this moment. This is the day you realize that the useless daughter-in-law you hated was the reason your grandson even has a roof over his head. That baby boy you love so much, I helped raise him. I helped name him. And one day when he's old enough, I'll tell him the truth about you, about how you treated the only person who ever actually helped his mother." I walked out of that cafe with David by my side, and we didn't look back because there was nothing left to say, nothing left to prove. And I finally felt free from the years of judgment and cruelty that had haunted me for so long. That night, David and I talked for hours, and he apologized for everything, for his mother, for the years of silence, for not standing up for me when I needed him to. We couldn't undo the past, but we could move forward. And we did, together, as friends, as the family we had always been meant to be without. Margaret's toxic influence poisoning everything. 2 years later, I got a call from Angela, and she told me that Margaret had finally found out the truth about everything, that she had broken down completely and started therapy, and that she wanted to apologize to me. But I said no, because some wounds are too deep and some betrayals are too painful to forgive. And I had already spent 7 years of my life trying to please someone who was never going to be happy with anything I did. Today, I am the godmother to a beautiful little boy who calls me Auntie Sarah. I have a successful life I built on my own terms, and I finally understand that the greatest revenge against someone who hates you is to live so well that they can't help but see what they lost. The greatest revenge against someone who hates you is to live so well that they can't help but see what they lost. You don't need to fight with people who want to tear you down. You just need to build a life so beautiful that they realize their hatred was meaningless. And remember, the people who judge you the harshest are often hiding their own secrets and lies.